Hi everyone! This is my first time filming on YouTube with books involved. I am typically just a vlogger. I am an actor, so sometimes if I am on set, I will take people along with me, but that's over on my other channel. Over here, we talk books, we talk the loves of our lives, fictional men. Now, don't get me wrong, I have a real life man in my life, and he is wonderful, but fictional men? Count me in. Count me in. So over here, we like to read fantasy. This shelf. We'll go through a library tour too, but this is my fantasy shelf. It is full, very full, always full. Fantasy is my favorite. Now, do I have more shelves of romance? Yeah, yeah, but that's okay. So we pretty much read everything here, but my two biggest genres that I read are romance and fantasy. But I have been trying to dabble into a little bit of historical fiction, and my plan this year, to read 10 banned books. At least. I am on a goal to read as many banned books as I possibly can because, well, they're banned for a reason and I don't like being told no. So we're going to read them anyway. So that is what the plan is for this year on this channel. So let's get into it. Good morning! It is a new day. It is Friday. As you can see by the title of this video, we're doing a library tour. So let's go ahead and hop into that. This is going to be a very, very fun library tour. I do not have things set up properly all the time. That would be my mom texting me. I do not have things set up properly all the time. Some things are kind of just thrown everywhere because, well, as you can see, my bookshelves are all really full. So sometimes my thrillers end up in the romance and romance ends up in mystery. You got to do what you got to do. I run out of space and that's just the life of it. So let's go ahead and hop into this library tour. You guys are not going to be disappointed. Let's start over at this shelf. This shelf is just a small little shelf that I kind of keep a lot of my mystery thrillers on, and I've got a specific shelf for specific things, but that's what this shelf is. So let's go ahead and start with the top shelf. So on the top shelf, we can see I've got all of my Agatha Christie books up here. This is one of the cute little book, what do you call those? Bookends! That's what it's called. It's called a bookend. It's called a bookend. So yeah, I've got one of these cute little bookends up here. I've got this little rest in peace sign because, well, mystery thriller kind of felt fitting. So I've got a couple of books up here. I've got another Agatha Christie book over here, which is not included on this side just because, well, that's just the life. So that's this top shelf. Now, if we go down into the second shelf, we have some more mystery thrillers. And like I said earlier, sometimes things are just thrown into places because I have run out of space. So A Fate Inked in Blood really should not be on this shelf, but it's the shelf that was available. Mom! Anyway, so on this shelf I've got some more mystery thrillers. I've got this honker of a Stephen King book that I could not fit up on this top shelf with my other Stephen King book, but you know what? She can sit here. But so I've got Cursed by Simon, actually, I've got Cursed by Frank Miller and Thomas Wheeler. This was a pretty interesting book, actually. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Then I have Fate Inked in Blood by Daniel L. Jensen. I have not read this one yet, but it has been on my TBR for way too long. Radical Element. This one looks like it could be really interesting. On the back it says 12 original stories, and it's got all of the authors that there are stories from in here. 10 out of 10. I want to read this one this year. But we've got our Stephen King 11/22/63, Snip Snip Revenge. I think this is going to be funny, but this might be a hot topic, but I really don't like people's faces on covers. I wish they'd stop doing that. Anyway, and then I've got some Alfred Hitchcock on this shelf as well. And then getting down to my favorite shelf on this bookshelf, you are not going to be disappointed. We have my Wicked and Wizard of Oz books. So I've got all four of the Wickeds right here. Got Wicked, A Lion Among Men, Son of a Witch, and Out of Oz. And then I have sitting next to it my beautiful edition of The Wizard of Oz. I mean, come on. Look at that foiling on there. That's just beautiful. And then yeah, on the back you can see the Emerald City. It's gorgeous. I love this book so freaking much. So yeah, it sits out like that because how could you not do that? And then on the very last shelf down here, we have some extra copies of things. This composition notebook is an acting journal of mine, so I keep this available for whenever I'm doing auditions. I've got this beautiful edition of Great Expectations, foiling, and there's a little bookmark in there too, so freaking pretty. And then I've got this extra edition of Wicked, the one with the movie poster on the front. I love it, but it does not go with these ones, so I keep it on the bottom shelf. And then I've just got some like Harry Potter travel stuff. My brother got me this for Christmas a couple of years ago. So now that is this shelf. Anyway, ow, son of a bitch. Anyway, so this is my fantasy series shelf. Up on this top shelf, we can see that I have my Fourth Wing editions. So I've got the holiday edition of Fourth Wing, my first like main edition of Fourth Wing. I did not hop on the bandwagon quick enough, so I do not have the sprayed edges, but it was still a great book nonetheless. So it sits up here with the rest of my Fourth Wing books. And then I've got my Iron Flame and my Onyx Storm. I'm still not over this book. I'm not over it yet. It still is hurting my feelings. Anyway, so let's go down to the next shelf. Also, this is my Kindle. It kind of sits up there whenever I'm reading physical books. So it sits right there right now. Then we jump down to my ACOTAR Sarah J. Maas shelf pretty much. I do not have ACOTAR on the top right now because me and my sister-in-laws, my boyfriend's sisters, are going to read ACOTAR together this month. We are rereading. So yeah, that's where that is. It is currently in a book sleeve because it is traveling with me today. But yeah, so this is my Sarah J. Maas shelf. I've got my ACOTAR books and only Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn and the Throne of Glass series because they were the tandem read and I wanted to be able to have them physically so I could jump between books. I felt like it might have been a little bit easier for me that way. Now onto this shelf, we've got all of my Outlander, well not all of them, most of them. I've got a few of my Outlander books. Disregard that this one is a different size than the rest. It bothers the hell out of me, but you want to know what? Life is life. So I've got all of my Outlander books, most of my Outlander books down here. I've only read up to Voyager, so I'd kind of like to jump back into this series this year, so we'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, I've only read up to Voyager, so this is my Outlander shelf. I do love it. And then onto the very bottom shelf, we have one of the best shelves. Once again, extra book. We're not going to look at these. We're going to pretend that they don't exist. But down here is my YA series. So I've got my Premeditated Myrtle down here. This is a cute little YA mystery. 10 out of 10. I don't know why I love these books so much, but I do. I only have the first three, but the first three were great. Would recommend them to anyone. These two are out of place because, well, I've run out of bookshelves. And then over here we've got my Caraval trilogy. I could have definitely gone without Legendary. I did not like that book very much at all. Could have definitely gone without, but I did not mind Caraval and I did not mind Finale. Was not a fan of Legendary. And then over here I've got my Shiver series. This is a YA like kind of like werewolf. It gives me Twilight vibes, but there's no vampires. It's just werewolves. 10 out of 10. I loved this series. My boyfriend's older sister recommended it to me, and oh my gosh, I loved that series. I was obsessed with everyone in those books. There was not a single second where I was like, ugh, I want to put this book down. No, I literally zoomed through these books like it was nobody's freaking business. Loved it. Would recommend these. If you have not read these yet, I pick them up. They are so good. They're so easy to read. Please, you're not going to be disappointed, I promise. I've got something in my freaking eye. Anyway, so let's get into this shelf. This is pretty much where my romance books start and they never end. So I've got a lot of my Emily Henry books right here. I've got Book Lovers, Beach Read, Funny Story, and Happy Place. Happy Place was my first book by her, and I fell in love with her writing. I do not have a single complaint with any Emily Henry book that I have ever read. Me and my boyfriend's older sister and one of his other sisters' girlfriend, we read this book for the beach trip that we took last year. So it is a little bit deteriorated because, well, ocean water. Anyway, so I've got most of my Emily Henry books here, and then I'm kind of disappointed that I don't have Icebreaker, but I have Wildfire and Daydream. Icebreaker, that book has a special place in my heart. That place has a special book in my heart. That book has a special place in my heart, so I'm kind of shocked that I don't have Icebreaker on my shelf, but I have Wildfire and Daydream. So need to get Icebreaker 100% sure. For sure. I need another coffee, I think. My words are not working right. But that's okay. So I've got Emily Henry, oh my God. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Need to read this year. So many people talk about this book, and I've yet to pick it up. Falling behind, everyone. And then I've got some of my Ali Hazelwood books. I've got Love Theoretically, Not in Love. Not in Love was so good. I read it this month because, well, February, I tried to plan all of my books around love and, So, read this month. It was so good. I read Arm Candy this month. It was okay-ish. I feel like my issue with that one was that the people in this book were older. That caused an issue. I need to read Archer's Voice. I just picked this up at the bookstore the other day. I need to read it. It's going on my TBR for next month, 100% sure. I know it's going to break me, but you know what? Those are usually the best books. So then I've got Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis, The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. If you guys haven't read that, you need to. When I was summer, I couldn't read the side because of the library sticker on it. But my library every so often will do a $5 fill-a-bag so they can get rid of their older books. And I got so many books from the library for like $5. It was not great, Alyssa. Not great, because you ran out of bookshelf space. But I will insert a picture here of me with all of those books. That was insane. And then I've got Runaway Love over here. I read that this month. It was so good. Let's go down to the next shelf. Once again, there are going to be books out of place because I have run out of space. So we're not going to pay attention to where this is. But look at how cool. Are you ready? Are you ready? I don't think you're ready. Boom! Oh! Oh! Are we kidding? That is so cool. Anyway, so down here I've got a lot of my sports romances and once again, a couple of just more general contemporary romance because I have run out of space. I don't have anywhere to put anything. So yeah, this shelf I've got a lot of my sports romance and just regular contemporary romance thrown in as well. I loved Say You Swear. I read it on my Kindle like 4 years ago. Was that 4 years ago? I think it was 4 years ago, but I had to get this in a physical copy not that long ago because I want to reread it. I loved this book so much. I think this book is what made me fall in love with sports romance because, come on. And then next to that, I've got The Cheat Sheet and Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I love Sarah Adams' writing. I literally eat her books up. I can zoom through her books like in a day. In one sitting, I will have an entire book of hers read. This book, I saw it on TikTok and Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, come on. Read, loved, will forever talk about this book. It was so good. Then I've got some more library picks that I got at the $5 fill-a-bag. I've got Break the Fall and How to Breathe Underwater. They are both sports romance. This one is not, but I've got so many good books on my shelf, I literally cannot not talk about them. Forget Me Not was so good. So good. You guys have to read this book. You have to. It's not even a request anymore. It's a you have to read this book. It's so good. So good. Another bookstore pickup that I got the other day was Never by Jessa Hastings. I've heard some really good things about this book, and it was on the buy one get one 50 Books a Million, so I snagged it because, well, the cover's beautiful and it's a Peter Pan retelling, but she doesn't fall in love with Peter Pan. She falls in love with Captain Hook's son. Okay, okay. So this one is definitely getting read this year too. And then below all of these books, I've got Airports, X's, and Other Things I'm Over. What a fun title! What a fun title! I've not read it yet, but I need to because the title makes me giggle every single time I look at it. Then this one is If You're Out There. It's like mystery, love story, super interesting premise. I'd like to see how they play with those two genres together. Then we've got Before I Die. I am not in the mental headspace to pick up this book yet, so. Then this one is another library pick. It's called All In. It's an international bestseller. But yeah, it's got heat and heart. Hoo-hoo. But yeah, it's another library pick. Definitely need to pick this one up. Dadgummit. The pages were bent. That's one thing I do not like about library books is that. That's okay. It's okay. It was basically free. And then I've got one of my favorite, and to be fair, it is my only book that I've read by her, but Daisy Jones and the Six. This was my favorite book that I read last year, not including like fantasy genre. I cannot count fantasy as like my favorite book that I read that year because, well, it's usually going to be my favorite book I've read that year. But Daisy Jones and the Six was so good. I fell in love with this book. I fell in love with every single character. And then after I finished it, I immediately turned on the TV show. My boyfriend is not a big reader, but he is a big TV show fan. So he sat down and watched this with me and he loved it. So yeah, would recommend this if you haven't read it yet. And I've got some more library picks. This one is the second book in a series. I didn't know it was a series, but it sits there. It's called Evergrost, a Kissed by an Angel novel. Interesting. I still have not read Magnolia Parks. I know. I know. I know. It's on my list of books to read this year, so need to pick this up sometime too, but I'm really excited to get into the Magnolia Parks series. I've heard so many people rave about this series, so I really need to hop into it and see what the hype is all about. And then I've got The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I loved that book so much. I did not know that Ashley Poston was a wizard, but she's a wizard because I ate that shit up. Like it was insane. I read that book so fast. I loved it so much. And then, okay, come on now. There we go. And then down to the last shelf on this section, I've got some more just general romance and some things that are thrown out of place because, you know, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Anyway, so I've got some series down here that I only have the first book to. I've not read Lightlark yet. I really need to jump into this. I don't know why it's taking me so long, but it is. And yeah, I just read this book with my sister-in-laws. We're just gonna call them my sister-in-laws because they basically are, and it's easier to say that than to jump into my boyfriend's sister and my boyfriend's sister's girlfriend. So yes, my sister-in-laws and I read this after Christmas, and we did not know that it was set in West Virginia, which is where we're all from, but it is set in West Virginia, so we all kind of lost our minds. We were like, that's such a funny coincidence that we just did not know what this book was about, and we opened it and it's set in Snowshoe. So that was really cool because none of us live in West Virginia anymore, and so this kind of just hit the I'm homesick spot. So we are going in this weekend to my boyfriend's dad's because we are kind of homesick. But yes, This book was so good. 10 out of 10. And then I've just got some more romance down here. I've got like a lot of these books I've not read. I think this is the only book that I have read on this shelf. The rest of them, actually, these two, Frigid and King of Battle and Blood, are the only two books on this shelf that I have read. So I need to hop into these books too. So over here we've got some beautiful, beautiful editions of the Puffin and Bloom. They're the Puffin and Bloom editions of some of the Jane Austen novels that I love. Literally cannot get enough of Sense and Sensibility. Fun little fact, I got to play Eleanor Dashwood my senior year of college at Marshall University, where I went. That was my dream role, and I got to play it my senior year of college, so that was awesome. So I have a very special place in my heart for Sense and Sensibility, so it's the one that faces out. But I've also got the Pride and Prejudice and Emma. They're so pretty. I cannot get enough of them. And then over here, I've just got a little pressed rose that I sometimes use as a bookmark because, well, one little fun fact about me is that I have plenty of bookmarks, but do I know where any of them are? Nope. So that rose sits on top of my Bad Austen and my Jane Austen book. These two are a library pick that I've still yet to pick up. I'd like to see what the Bad Austen one is. It says the worst stories Jane never wrote. I'd be interested to read that guy. Then down onto this shelf, whoo, my brother nailed my birthday present. Christmas. It was Christmas. It was Christmas. My Christmas present, he nailed it. Look at how freaking cool that is. So cool. I'll get a close-up of it later. But this is my Harry Potter shelf. I've got all of my Harry Potters here. I've got my Philosopher's Stone. Also, these are the UK edition because the UK edition is a little bit different than the American edition. And I have both editions. The US edition is at my parents', and this one stays here with me because I love the UK editions. They're so freaking cute. Look at that. I love the UK editions. They're so pretty. But yeah, so I've got my Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, which is a honker. I kind of forget how big this book is until I see it next to the rest of them, especially the last book. What do you mean? What do you mean? Anyway, and then I've got my Half-Blood Prince and then my Deathly Hallows. And then this one I got at Sam's because, well, I cannot stay out of book sections. If there is a book section in a store and you can't find me, go there. You'll find me. I'm probably in one of those aisles. But I found this one at Sam's and it's got really cool sprayed edges. It's got the golden snitch on it all over the place. Beautiful. And it was only $9.48. Come on. So yeah, it just kind of sits up here with the sprayed edges visible, but I don't have anywhere else for it because I want this guy in the middle. So whatever. Yeah, I did electricity. That was me. This took me freaking 12 hours to build. 12. Super cool. But down to the last shelf on this section, we've got most of my banned books and a couple of little stragglers. I've got my tabs for annotating. I've got my book embosser. I've got my pens in this bag, my highlighters, and this is just a journal. Whenever I am buddy reading with someone, I will usually write down what I want to talk about in there because I don't want to spoil it for them. So yeah, down here I've got Green Glass House, which is a juvenile mystery. Was actually pretty interesting little book. To be a juvenile, I was actually really intrigued. So if you've not picked this one up, don't knock it till you try it, because it might be a juvenile, but it was actually really good. And then I've got my Looking for Alaska, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I got this for Christmas. It's got like 50 banned books that you can read, and it's got like, oh, actually, how funny is that? So if I was reading The Perks of Being a Wallflower, I could flip over to this page and it gives you the synopsis of the book, and then it gives you a little prompt for you to think about. And so it says, what secrets do you keep from your friends? And then it gives you pages to write about like how you felt about the book. and it gives you a date started, a date finished, and a star rating. And so, yeah, this is really interesting. I do love this. I have said, I think 3 times in this video, but I'm on a task to read as many banned books as possible. I don't like being told no. And if a book is banned, it's usually banned for a reason, and I want to know why. So, love this thing. I love it. But yeah, so I've got most of my banned books down here. And then I've got a couple of books that are being talked about being a buddy read with me and my sister-in-laws. So I want to keep them separated from the rest of my books because knowing me, I would accidentally go to grab one and then that's the one that they would pick for the buddy read. So I'm just going to leave these down here. But I've got The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt, or Tara or Tara DeWitt, and then Liberty by Gita Trelease. This one has a beautiful cover, and it's like a historical, like contemporary romance. Like it's got a lot in it. Like there's magical, there's like there's so many genres in just one book that I can't even tell you what the genre is. But it looks really interesting. It's just a thick guy, so we're kind of waiting on that one. We are now on to the last shelf of my big bookshelf. So over here we've got, well, up here is my stage stuff. I've got a theater clapper. It's got the Good Fight stuff on there because that was the last movie I was in. So I usually try to put the movies that I am in on that clapper just to make it a little bit more mine. And so I've got this beautiful edition of Les Mis. It's got beautiful gold edges. Oh, look at that shine. Ooh, so pretty. And then I've got Stagecraft, which, I mean, maybe you guys will understand, maybe not. If you know, you know. And then I've got the Jean Brown Showtime. Once again, if you know, you know. Now, over on this shelf, we pretty much have just general fiction and historical fiction. Some of them are, like I said, a little out of place because, well, I've run out of bookshelf space. So let's go ahead and jump onto this first shelf. So I've got, once again, a lot of, I mean, 1, 2, 3 of the library books on this shelf alone. And I've not read a single one of them. So I did just finish The Kite Runner not that long ago. Guys, read banned books. Read them. Read them. Please, 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 please read banned books. This book, I read it when I was naive, and I reread it as a 27-year-old, and it makes me so sad. Like, all of the banned books that I have jumped back into as an adult have genuinely made me sick to my stomach, have made me frustrated, have made me angry, have made me upset. Reading banned books makes you feel feelings that people are afraid to show. So please read banned books. And if you want one to start with, Kite Runner. Look at all those tabs. I mean, goodness gracious, this book was fantastic. I will definitely be rereading this again. I think this is going to be a yearly reread for me. It is so important in our day and age to be reading banned books because we are being blinded by idiocy. So please, everyone, read banned books. We cannot get rid of banned books. Read them. There's information in there. There's good information in here. Please read banned books. Now, back to my library tour. Back off my TED Talk. I've got a few of my Frederick Bachman books over here. Is it Bachman or Bachman? Because I've always said Bachman, but then I've heard so many people say Bachman. So I'm just going to say Bachman. If I'm wrong, I mean, whatever. But I've got 3 of my Frederick Bachman books over here. I read Beartown and what was the second book? Son of a, I can't remember the name of the second book, but I read both of those on my Kindle. I think that I need to reread them though, because I don't think I gave them a very fair chance because, well, I read Beartown after, I think it was after Fourth Wing or after Caraval, and Caraval that trilogy put me in a book slump because I tried to read the second book and I should have just DNF'd it, but it put me into a book slump. So I don't know if I gave Beartown a fair enough chance. I did not rate it like very high at all. I think I gave it a 3-star, and I've heard so many people give it a 5-star, so maybe I should reread it and, maybe while I'm not in a book slump and see how that goes. Now, A Man Called Ove, or Ove, or however you say it, I really don't know. The movie is called A Man Called Otto. It stars Tom Hanks. And I mean, this book made me realize that we need to stop looking at the older generation as grumpy and look at them with more compassion. I feel like we forget that they're also living for the first time too, and they're also experiencing aging, and they're experiencing all of the things that maybe frustrate us as young adults. So maybe we need to treat them with a little more grace. This book is what made me feel that. So this book was so good. I've not read Anxious People yet. I need to jump into that one this year. Annie Bot was a crazy book. Crazy, crazy, crazy book. This was insane. Insane. And it kind of makes me scared of robots. But to be fair, I've always been afraid of robots because, well, they're robots. I am the person in Sam's that runs away from the floor cleaner thing that doesn't have people driving it anymore. It's just automated by robots, and it's terrifying. So yeah, no thank you. This was a good book though. And then I've got some undergrad law school books that my boyfriend, he's like, oh, I think you might enjoy that one. So I've got a few of the law school books that he had in his undergrad that I've yet to read, but I want to, because, I mean, if he thinks I'm going to be interested in them, I probably am. And then this one looks like it's, like, I don't know. Once again, I don't really like people on covers. I wish that wasn't a thing. But yeah, so that's those section. And then I've got Bury in Pieces, which I get confused by this title every single time I read it. But yeah, it's Very in Pieces. Seems like it'll be an interesting book, but haven't picked it up. These two books have a special place in my heart. I don't want to talk about how I don't have the same editions, okay? Okay, we're not going to talk about it, okay? The House in the Cerulean Sea was so good. I fell in love with every single character in this book. Every single character. There was not a single person in this book where I was just like, I could go without them. No. No, every single word that is said in this book is important. Everything that is written in this book is written there for a reason. There's no fluff on these books. This just gets straight to the freaking point, and it is so good. In the second book, Somewhere Beyond the Sea, and literally I sing it every single time in my head, and they talk about that song in the book, so it made me giggle, because whenever I picked it up, I just started singing, somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me. Anyway, so yes, this book was also fantastic. I loved everything about it. We got a new character in this book. Like, there was just so much in this book that was, I want to reread them. I want to reread them so bad. And then we've got Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray. This is the second book in the series. I have the first book at my parents' house. Ugh. I'll get that off later. I've got the first book at my parents' house. This is the second one. It is also a chunky boy. But this is the second book in the Diviners or Diviners. I think it's Diviners, but whatever. So this is in the Diviners series, and this book, the first one was really interesting. I've not gotten into the second one because, well, I keep putting more books on my TBR, and I'm not even finished with my first TBR. So, need to read this one, but I will definitely have to reread the first one because I don't really remember what happened. Like, I remember what happened, but not really. Okay, and then on to the last shelf of the bookshelf over here. We've got some more, also disregard this is a birthday present that I made for my neighbor. It's just going to sit here. But down here we've got mainly our historical fiction, historical fantasy. Some of them are just thrown in there because I've run out of space. So, you know, but most of them are historical. So, but these, I only have the first two, but this is The Bright and Breaking Sea by Chloe Neal. It was an interesting book. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I got it as a blind date with a book for Christmas a couple of years ago. I genuinely did enjoy the book. I just feel like some of the things that were written about this book were not very accurate. So I went into this book expecting one thing and I got another. So that had a big deal on my rating because, well, I wanted one thing and I got another. But I didn't want to cut short, so I went ahead and got the second book too. I've not read it yet. I remember everything that happened in this book, so I will probably hop into this one at some point this year. But I want to give it a fair chance because maybe something happens in this one that I wanted to happen in this one. Because whenever I read this at first, I didn't know that it was a series, so I was frustrated because, well, I thought the book ended, and I was like, that's not a very great ending. Book two. Everything's fine. So I just need to read the second book and see how I feel about that. I need to jump into some Kristen Hanna books this year. I've got The Nightingale. I know this one breaks people, but I want to read it really, really, really bad. So it's going to be on my TBR this year. This one was a blind date with a book. It's called The Book of Scandal. It's a tiny book. I love tiny books, the ones that you can like literally like hold in one hand. But yeah, I got this one while we were in Williamsburg for Christmas. This was another library book. Amid Stars and Darkness looks interesting. Yeah, some of these are just library book picks that looked interesting, but I have no idea what they're about. This one is Under the Wide and Starry Sky by Nancy Horan. I've never read anything by Nancy Horan, so this looks like it could be interesting. And I also still have not read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It's sitting right here, but I have yet to read it. I have yet to read it. So yeah, that's pretty much all of my bookshelves on this side. I've got a couple of bookshelves over in my corner over there, but they're pretty much all theater books. I can take you through them anyway, but you might not be interested. Well, we have gone through all of my bookshelves. I do have an extra bookshelf over in this corner, but it is just stage stuff, just scripts. Jenna Fisher's book about the life of being an actor. Chekhov, like I've just got all of my theater stuff over there, including like pretty much all of my Shakespeare. It's all over there. I try to keep it excluded from my main library because that's my corner. That's my corner. That's mine. Everyone else gets to enjoy this part, but that's mine. That's mine. And it's also a catastrophe back there, so I'm not going to show you that anyway. Maybe whenever I get this office cleaned back up. Maybe. But yeah, so I've got some theater books over there, but you've pretty much seen my entire library. If you guys have books on this shelf that you have been wanting to read, leave a comment down below. If you have books that you didn't see on my shelf that you're like, Alyssa, you need these books, comment down below. I am happy to update library tours as I get more books in the coming future because I know that I will be. I have a book problem. But yeah, so leave a comment down below. Make sure you like this video, subscribe. This is my first video on this channel. We are going to be talking all books over here, all fictional, like fictional men. We talk fictional men over here. We talk Fourth Wing. We talk ACOTAR. We talk romance. Come have fun. Come have fun. I'm a fun girl. I promise. I promise I'm not boring. I pinky promise with my smallest finger we'll be best friends. But yeah, so that's my library. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.